Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back here with Jeremy. Got a cool video. Gonna do kind of the deeper dive into the company. The elevator pitch we'll go through and then talk about, really the technology and why and how it's better than the current. But Jeremy, first things first, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having us, Jason.
Good, good. Office looks extra bright, so fantastic. But here, diving into it, I usually like to kick this off. Let's say we were at a hotel and we were both on the 30th floor, and we walk into the elevator, and I say, "Tell me about Perimeter." Give me the overview.
Definitely. So Perimeter Medical Imaging AI, I usually describe us as an early stage medical device company. We're kind of right at the transition from clinical development into commercialization. So we have really two flagship products that we're working on today. We have our S series OCT, which is an ultra high resolution, 10 times higher resolution than ultrasound or X-ray, 100 times higher than MRI. And what that does is helps surgeons see intraoperatively whether or not they've removed all the cancer in a solid state cancer surgery procedure. And that device, we've received 510K clearance on in the February timeframe, and we're actively commercializing that today. Expect our first commercial installations in the very near future. Then we have this really exciting product development work stream around artificial intelligence that will overlay those images, interpret those images, and kind of act as a Google Maps, if you will, for the surgeon. So after they scan the tumor that's been removed from the patient, the AI processes it and says, "Surgeon, you need to look here and think about taking action on this." And that piece of our technology is in the clinical validation phase. So we have a de-risked commercial execution, razor blade med tech story on our existing technology. And then we have very exciting blue sky opportunities that really will, fast track our widespread user adoption and our market share gain, if you will, from the AI that's in clinical validation, with a lot of really exciting clinical milestones happening in the very near future.
Yeah, and we can talk about those separately going forward. AI in the operating room will be very interesting. But here, wanted to kind of dive in for people, let's assume first time hearing about Perimeter, first time really learning about the space. Can we talk about what the current, kind of surgeon goes through, the current kind of process, the tools they have, and then we'll talk about, kind of how this is going to be better in a little bit more granular detail.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just start with, I've been in medical devices my whole career, and for all of the problems that I've solved over the years or helped to solve, this is one that has constantly come up, especially in breast cancer care, time and time again. And surgeons are really hungry for some technology to help them solve this problem. So, the new customer or new clinical investigator that I present this to, the usual response is, "Oh my goodness, where have you been for the last 10 years? I've been asking for this exact thing." So what they struggle with today is let's use breast lumpectomy as our example for a solid state cancer surgery. So in a breast lumpectomy, the surgeon goes in, removes the tumor from the patient, and they don't have a way other than basically palpation or some really low resolution imaging technologies to try to determine if they've removed all the cancer. So what they do is they send that specimen to a pathology lab, and that pathology lab, looks at the specimen, takes different samples. So they chop the specimen up so that they can put it under a microscope. And they're looking under the microscope for any cancer at the perimeter of that tissue specimen. So they're looking for cancer cells at the edge. If they find cancer cells at the edge of that specimen, the risk of cancer coming back for that patient doubles. So instead of accepting that risk, the patient comes back for at least one more operation. So sometimes they'll come back for another lumpectomy. Then they might have to come back for a mastectomy after that. Sometimes they'll come right back for a mastectomy. Unfortunately today, because it's a pretty complicated procedure, about 1 in 4 breast cancer patients has to come back for that reoperation because pathology found cancer at the edge after the operation. So the surgeon removes the specimen, sews the patient up, sends them home, sends the tumor to a pathology lab. they find cancer, patient comes back for another operation. Hard on the patient, hard on the economic system. Every patient coming back costs about $16,000 in extra healthcare costs. So 1 in 4 patients coming back costing $16,000 each. That's $4,000 per patient in potentially avoidable costs. And what our technology does, I mentioned it's ultra high resolution. So instead of waiting for that microscopic level image happening in pathology a week from now, the surgeon can see that tissue specimen and visualize the outside of that tissue. It's called the margin. They can visualize the margin at a microscopic level of detail with our technology in real time. So if they find cancer at the edge with our technology, they just go right back in and take more tissue from the patient instead of sewing them up, sending them home, having them come back later.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit. I know it's still early days, if we want to say, but talk to me. So that was, you're looking at about 25% of patients come back, right? So one in four. Walk me through kind of what you think, using this technology, that number might become, or what do you think those numbers are? And you talk about kind of saving on average, $4,000 per patient. What do you kind of see the economics now with Perimeter?
Yeah, we think from a value proposition for the provider today, before AI, this technology is really well suited for about 30% of surgeons. These are surgeons that are really imaging savvy. It's not a leap for them to move from interpreting an ultrasound image to interpreting our OCT image. And so what we, in a very conservative way, just to really expedite adoption, what we've said to providers is, okay, you have 1 in 4 patients coming back. What if we cut that $4,000 cost in half? So we're creating $2,000 worth of value per patient, and hospital, you can capture half of that. Perimeter will capture half of that. So we charge about $1,000 per procedure for our technology to help them avoid that cost. Now, our clinical data to date has demonstrated that effectively we can demonstrate concordance with pathology. So we can show the same information that pathology shows with about 85 to 90% accuracy. So we think that 50% is a really compelling, conservative proposition for the customer. And, if you talk to some of our key opinion leaders, our longest standing clinical advisor, Dr. Ted James, he's been quoted saying that this technology can get us down into the early single-digit reoperation rates. Some you won't be able to avoid because just sometimes you run out of tissue to take from the patient, but mid-single digits, early single digits, we think is definitely achievable.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, I think you did an amazing job kind of, painting the picture for people. No pun intended. Anything else, kind of about the general kind of business of Perimeter that we wanted to cover? Of course, we'll do kind of, sales and, marketing kind of type videos going forward. And we'll talk about kind of those processes, but anything in general about the company that you wanted to get into this video?
Yeah, I think just generally, we talked about the 2 different value streams that we have going. And one of the things that's a pretty recent development for us in particular is the breakthrough device designation on the artificial intelligence application. And for those who aren't familiar with it, it's really elevates our brand equity, elevates the awareness of this technology from a customer perspective, but also from a clinical, regulatory, and reimbursement perspective. So we're really excited about what that's done for us and all of the tailwinds it brings. It gives us enhanced interactions with the FDA from a regulatory perspective. And we're a big proponent, for obvious reasons, of the Medicare coverage of innovative technology. So what the U.S. healthcare system has recognized is we have all these really exciting, novel breakthrough technologies that are solving big problems, but then you have to deal with the reimbursement hurdle after you're in market. And Medicare, CMS, the agency that's responsible for Medicare, is proposing that they instantly provide coverage for breakthrough device designations as soon as the FDA clears them for market. So really exciting things happening from a customer perspective to expedite and really accelerate our user adoption.
Yeah, no, awesome. Look, lots of great things to cover going forward. There's not going to be a shortage. Some really cool industry thought leadership things to cover as well. Like I mentioned, kind of AI in the operating room and some cool things there. But thanks so much for taking the time. I think this was an amazing kind of overview. Don't need to overcomplicate it. This is fantastic. Thanks so much. And anyone who has questions, please don't hesitate to drop them below. We'll make sure to get it in future videos. But Jeremy, thanks so much for joining.
Great. Thanks, Jason. We'll talk soon.